I've been in this park 6 years now. So this was never here. And somebody brought a tent in and it all snowballed from there.
You can't be in this spot. Police say you can't be here after 11, on the beach. You can't be here. Well, where are we gonna go then? I've paid taxes all my life, since I was 16 years old. If there's not any help for us at all, everybody's got their story.
This February 7th, he was dead 1 year. He was deaf and disabled. His throat collapsed. He died in the street.
Well, I got in a car wreck, I lost my job, then I lost my wife, and now I pay child support, so they take my driver's license away. Now I'm homeless because I can't afford to get a place.
Every year, more than 300,000 people from across the United States head to Florida to retire carrying with them the dream of a warm, peaceful final chapter in life. They picture sunshine all year long, lazy afternoons by the ocean, a life free from stress and worry. But there's one thing almost no one is truly ready to face. Today, when many people arrive in Florida, instead of finally enjoying calm years after decades of hard work, they still have to struggle to survive at an age when they should be resting. Some even end up facing hunger-cold nights and crushing loneliness on the streets. Yes, right in a place celebrated as a retirement paradise, the lives of thousands of people are quietly being worn down, fading away in the shadows. How can a state famous for luxury high-rise condos, cruise ships, and beachfront golf courses also be the same place where thousands of older adults are sleeping on sidewalks in cars or behind dumpsters? What broken a system where you can work your whole life, pay your taxes, raise your kids, do everything right, and still end up with nothing? And here's the most unsettling question of all. If this can happen to the people who should be most protected, the elderly, the ones who spent their lives helping build this country, then who among us is really safe? Stay with us, and as we dig into this together, you may never look at the world the same way again. The harsh reality of life on the edge. Carolyn, 78, spent almost 2 months living in her aging car. Her only income is a modest Social Security check. Her ankles are swollen from trying to sleep sitting up every night, and she stretches one small meal to last the day.
It can happen to anyone. Don't think it can't, because I never thought about it.
This is the human face of being homeless in America, and in Florida, the number of people without a stable place to live is climbing fast, spreading almost like an epidemic. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's 2023 Annual Homeless Assessment Report, Florida had 3,809 people experiencing homelessness on a single night, ranking third in the country behind California and New York. Of these, 15,706 had no shelter at all, left exposed to weather danger and despair. For these people, every day is a non-stop fight just to make it to the next one, each day more exhausting and frightening than the last. Imagine waking up with no access to clean water, no safe place to rest, not even a bathroom, where the most basic human needs feel out of reach. For those who are homeless in America and in Florida, hunger is only one of the many threats stalking them. Violence is a constant risk, with attacks and assaults a painful reality that leaves women, children, and especially older adults constantly vulnerable. Nearly half of homeless women report that they're escaping domestic violence only to end up in another kind of nightmare on the street. Serious health issues, both physical and mental, make everything even worse. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, 46% of people experiencing homelessness are living with mental illness or substance use challenges. Yet actually getting treatment is rare and often out of reach. For older adults who are homeless, these hardships are even heavier. Their age and frailty make it harder to protect themselves from the dangers of the street. Many are living with chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetes, or arthritis, but don't have the health care they need to manage them. Some can barely move without pain, which makes them easy targets for robbery, assault, or other harm. The lack of basic necessities and the feeling that they have no way to improve their situation can leave older people feeling rejected by society and stripped of their dignity. On top of that, the constant fear and uncertainty of living outside can lead to depression and other mental health struggles. Support services for people who are homeless in America aren't always easy to find or access, especially for seniors, many of whom don't know where to turn for help. In Florida's big cities like Miami and Tampa, makeshift encampments pop up under bridges and parking lots and along sidewalks, only to be cleared away by authorities enforcing laws that often seem to overlook the humanity of the people they're pushing aside. These are not just statistics or headlines. They are real lives, especially those of older adults, whose sense of worth and security has been stripped away by a system that has failed them. We should be able to enjoy the rewards of our work and sacrifice, not be forced to struggle on the streets, begging for the basic rights we should already have. Looking ahead, the picture is alarming. Without serious action, experts warn that the homeless population in Florida could increase by 10 to 20% by 2030, driven by surging housing costs and rapid population growth. Florida's population is expected to grow by 3.2 million people by 2030, requiring around 570,000 additional housing units. And most of those won't be affordable for low-income families. This crisis isn't limited to downtown alleys or inner-city neighborhoods. It's spreading into suburbs and rural communities, turning being homeless in America into an increasingly widespread threat. The risk is very real. One job loss, one medical emergency, one natural disaster could push even a seemingly stable person or family over the edge. This is no longer just their problem, it's all of ours. When thousands of people in a so-called paradise can't even find a safe place to sleep at night, it means none of us are truly secure. So who will be the next one among us? Our friends, our parents, our neighbors, or even ourselves? Who's at risk? The fragile line between stability and despair. Florida's homelessness crisis reveals a stark truth: nobody is completely shielded from it. Yes, poverty is a major driver. Florida's poverty rate hovers around 12.3% to 12.7%, affecting roughly 2.76 million people. But the danger stretches far beyond just those living below the poverty line. Older adults trying to get by on fixed incomes are increasingly on the brink.
And for the first time tonight, just over half of the homeless people were seniors who can no longer afford rent, and they are now living without a shelter. And as West New's Michelle Meredith reports, it's really impacting women 65 and older who have been hit the hardest.
As housing costs explode, a Social Security check of $1,500 a month doesn't even come close to covering rent in cities like Miami, where the median rent is over $2,000. 1 in 4 homeless households has at least one person over age 55, their savings drained by medical expenses or sudden life crises. Imagine working your whole life only to end up sleeping on a park bench because your retirement check can't keep up with rising prices. Low and middle income workers are also walking a tightrope. In Florida, 82% of low-income renters spend more than half of their income just keeping a roof over their heads, leaving them one missed paycheck away from being evicted. Even people working 2 jobs, like the server pulling double shifts and driving for a rideshare app at night, are struggling to pay for basic housing. The median home price in Florida is $390,856, about 10% higher than the national average, pushing homeownership further and further out of reach. And it's not only the poor who are at risk. The middle class is wobbling too. One unexpected bill, a car breakdown, a medical emergency, a sudden layoff can start a downward spiral that ends in homelessness. This crisis isn't some distant storm on the horizon. It's a wave slowly closing in, and it can touch anyone. The people who are homeless in America, especially in Florida, aren't just others. They are our co-workers, our relatives, our neighbors, our grandparents. The false comfort of thinking that could never be me blinds us to what's really happening. The line between stability and homelessness is incredibly thin, and it's getting thinner every single day. So, what exactly is pushing more and more people out of their homes and onto the streets, shattering the illusion of security we cling to? The truth might shock you, and it's much closer to home than you think. The root causes: a web of economic, social, and political failures. The old stereotype that homelessness in America is caused by laziness or addiction isn't just wrong, it's dangerously simplistic and misses the real story underneath. Yes, in Florida, about 38% of people experiencing homelessness struggle with alcohol dependence and 26% with drug addiction. But most of the time, these are consequences, not the starting point. The real forces driving people into the streets are a toxic mix of economic inequality, soaring living costs, and deep systemic failures that lock people into a cycle of poverty and hopelessness. Florida is a striking contradiction. It's a state with a booming economy and a relatively low unemployment rate of 3.3%. Yet at the same time, it's dominated by low-paying jobs and housing that's out of reach for the very workers who keep the economy running. In just the past 5 years, the median home price has jumped by 80%, and rents have climbed far faster than wages. For many low-income families, housing alone devours more than half of their income, leaving almost nothing for food, healthcare, childcare, or emergencies. As inflation continues to rise into 2025, every paycheck buys less, and the pressure on ordinary Floridians only intensifies. Stagnant wages, especially in service and tourism jobs, make it nearly impossible for workers to get ahead, no matter how hard they try. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, Florida is short 435,879 affordable homes for low-income renters. That massive housing gap pushes thousands of people into homelessness, simply because they have nowhere affordable to live. When we talk about homeless in America, this is exactly what we mean. Not people choosing the streets, but people priced out of basic shelter. The social forces behind this crisis make the situation even more complicated. Mental health challenges and substance use are common among people living without stable housing. But Florida's mental health system is chronically underfunded. Nearly half, about 46% of people experiencing homelessness, aren't getting the treatment or support they urgently need. Domestic violence is another powerful driver, especially for women and children. Many have to flee abusive homes overnight only to discover they have no safe place to go. Without enough shelters that offer both safety and long-term stability, countless women and kids end up trying to survive in cars, motels, or on the street. Racial inequality deepens the crisis even more. In Florida, Black households earn an average of $41,416 a year, compared to $59,004 for white households. These entrenched disparities make it harder for many people of color to secure steady housing build savings or recover from financial shocks. On top of that, Florida's frequent natural disasters, especially hurricanes, displace thousands of residents every year. And as always, low-income communities and renters are the ones hit hardest, with homes destroyed and very little backup to fall back on. Politically, the situation is made even worse by decisions that fail to tackle the underlying causes of homelessness. Florida's refusal to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act has left many low-income residents without health coverage. Without that safety net, a single medical emergency can lead to crushing debt, job loss, and eventually homelessness. Then there are laws that punish visible poverty instead of solving it. Measures that criminalize public camping, like Florida's 2024 statute, don't address why people are on the street in the first place. Instead, they push people who are already vulnerable into even riskier situations, treating their existence as a nuisance to be removed rather than a crisis to be solved. Supporters of these policies argue they keep cities clean and maintain public order, but critics see them as cold and dehumanizing, more focused on hiding the homeless in America than helping them rebuild their lives. Homelessness in Florida and homelessness in America more broadly is not simply a story of personal failure. It's the outcome of a broken system where economic pressures, social inequities, and political choices collide and push vulnerable people over the edge. When these interconnected problems go unaddressed, homelessness doesn't shrink, it spreads, touching more and more lives every day. The need to confront these root causes isn't some distant moral duty. It's urgent and immediate. Because until the system itself changes, the cycle of homelessness will keep expanding, swallowing more families, seniors, and workers who never thought it could happen to them. But is this really unavoidable? Or are we as a society choosing to let this crisis grow in the shadows? The state of Florida hasn't completely ignored the homeless crisis, but its response is a mix of progress and missed opportunities. Programs such as housing choice vouchers and rapid rehousing do offer critical support through rental assistance and short-term housing, helping many people get back on their feet. Between 2010 and 2023, Florida added 4 309 rapid rehousing beds and 4 246 permanent supportive housing beds. These investments helped drive a roughly 30% reduction in homelessness since 2007. FEMA also steps in with emergency aid for renters affected by hurricanes and other disasters, and some local programs invest in mental health and addiction services. These efforts matter, they're real steps forward. But in the face of a crisis this large, they are still small pieces of a much bigger puzzle. Florida spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year on homelessness, and that raises tough questions about how the money is used. It costs around $31,000 a year to manage one person living on the streets through emergency rooms, police calls, and jail stays. Yet providing permanent supportive housing costs only about $10.51 per person annually. With numbers like that, it's fair to ask, why are we pouring so much into short-term reactive measures instead of investing in long-term solutions that actually save money and lives? Critics say the state's priorities are backwards, with a large share of funds going toward temporary shelters rather than permanent homes. The 2024 public camping ban is a perfect example of this tension. Supporters claim it helps restore order and keeps public spaces cleaner. Opponents argue it effectively criminalizes being homeless in America, pushing people into overcrowded jails, or forcing them out of sight instead of addressing why they ended up outside in the first place. One of the most heated issues remains Florida's ongoing refusal to expand Medicaid. Without expanded healthcare coverage, many low-income residents are one accident or illness away from medical debt and financial collapse, a major pathway into homelessness. Political gridlock and ideological battles have stalled reforms, while some leaders continue to favor punitive policies over comprehensive solutions that could actually break the cycle. So we're left with a haunting question: is the government truly working to solve the homelessness crisis? Or is it just managing how it looks on paper and in public spaces, while the problem continues to grow? The question doesn't go away easily. Is this meaningful progress or just damage control? What would it really take to break this cycle once and for all? Social safety nets, promises, and pitfalls. Florida's social safety net acts as a lifeline for some people, but for many others, it feels more like a thin, fraying rope. The 2024 public camping ban, promoted as a tool to keep cities orderly, has been widely criticized for its harsh impact on the homeless in America who live in Florida. Instead of offering stable housing, it pushes people into overcrowded shelters, temporary encampments, or jail cells. Housing programs like the Housing Choice Voucher System are crucial, but they're chronically underfunded and can only reach a fraction of those who need help. FEMA's disaster relief funds are vital after hurricanes and storms, especially for renters who lose everything. But that assistance is often temporary, a band-aid on a wound that keeps reopening. Meanwhile, mental health and addiction services are absolutely essential for the 46% of people experiencing homelessness who struggle with these issues, remain under-resourced and overstretched. That leaves thousands of people without the support they need to heal and rebuild. One of the biggest holes in Florida's safety net is the refusal to expand Medicaid. If expanded, it could offer health care to many low-income residents and help prevent medical debt from spiraling into eviction and homelessness. Without it, one hospital stay or emergency procedure can shatter a family's finances and push them onto the street. At the same time, protections for renters, like strong eviction safeguards, rent stabilization, or temporary moratoriums during crises, are limited. That leaves tenants exposed in a hot housing market, where landlords can hike rents or move quickly to evict when people fall behind. In a state where housing costs are rising this fast, that's like walking a tightrope without a safety net. To truly tackle this crisis, Florida would need to move beyond small fixes and embrace bold structural changes. That means large-scale investment in affordable housing, expanding Medicaid, and building strong prevention tools, like emergency rental assistance, so people don't lose their homes in the first place. It also means supporting community-based solutions, local mental health clinics, accessible addiction treatment job training programs, and safe shelters for survivors of domestic violence. These aren't just extras. They are essential pieces of any real strategy to reduce the number of homeless in America. But all of this takes more than just good ideas on paper. It demands political courage and a public that's willing to push for change. The real question is, are we ready to step up, speak out, and demand a system that truly protects people? Or will we allow red tape division and apathy to keep us stuck, while more lives quietly slide into crisis? The future of Florida, hope or despair? The future of homelessness in America, and in Florida in particular, hangs in a fragile balance. If nothing changes, this crisis is on track to deepen, with estimates suggesting a 10–20% increase in homelessness by 2030. Rising populations, skyrocketing housing costs, and climate-related disasters are all poised to push more people, especially seniors, low-wage workers, and families out of their homes and onto the streets. But even in the middle of this uncertainty, there is still room for hope. Florida's remarkable 30% drop in homelessness between 2007 and 2023 proves that real progress is possible when there is consistent, focused effort. If we expand permanent supportive housing, broaden access to Medicaid, and put serious emphasis on prevention instead of punishment, we can begin to turn the tide. On an individual level, people can prepare by planning their finances more carefully and making use of support programs like SNAP rental assistance or FEMA aid after disasters. Communities can play a powerful role too by volunteering at shelters, donating to local organizations, and speaking up for stronger, more humane policies. Government action is absolutely crucial in this fight. Investing in housing and support services is far more effective and far more humane than relying on punitive approaches that target people who are already vulnerable. If we fail to act, Florida could drift toward a future where tent encampments become a common sight and the promise of stability slips further away for countless families. So we're left with a choice. What kind of future do we want for Florida? Will it be a place known for opportunity and compassion, or a place where despair takes root and claims more and more lives? A reflection of our society, the truth behind homelessness. The homelessness crisis in America, seen so clearly in Florida, is more than a statistic. It's a mirror held up to our society. It exposes the injustice of a system where wealth can reach staggering heights, while millions struggle just to keep a roof over their heads, where having a home is treated like a luxury instead of a basic human need. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable question about our humanity. When we see someone living on the street, do we recognize a person with a story, a parent, a veteran, a senior, or do we reduce them to an inconvenience we'd rather not think about? This crisis demands our attention. It urges us to look deeper at the economic, social, and political structures that allow so many people to fall through the cracks. And this isn't only Florida's problem, it's a national one. Homeless in America is not just a phrase, it's a reality, playing out in cities, suburbs, and small towns across the country. It's time for us to push for truly affordable housing, stronger social safety nets, and policies that put people's well-being ahead of profit margins. We need to ask ourselves, what does this situation say about who we are as a society? Each of us has a part to play, whether that's volunteering, donating, advocating for fair policies, or simply taking the time to listen to the voices and stories of those who are living this reality. Together, we can shape a Florida and an America where no one is forced to survive on the streets. So the question is, will you look away, or will you choose to act and help change this story? The decision in the end is ours.